When you like someone, it's natural to want to show them how much you care. You want to be there, be available, and prove your feelings through your actions. But here's where most people go wrong. They think that attachment is the same as love, that the more they show up, the more they check in, the more they express their desire, the more the other person will feel the same way. And yet, time and time again, you see the opposite happening. The more you invest, the more they pull away. The more effort you put in, the less you seem to get back. Why is that? Because attachment kills attraction. When you are too available, when you make someone your priority before they've made you theirs, you unknowingly tip the balance of power. Attraction thrives in the unknown, in that space where someone is still wondering about you, still figuring you out. But the moment you become too predictable, too eager, too present, something shifts. Suddenly, what once felt exciting starts to feel expected. What once felt special begins to feel ordinary. Think about the things in your life you value the most. The things you've worked for, the things you had to earn. You cherished them because they weren't just handed to you. You had to prove yourself. You had to put in effort. And that effort made you appreciate them more. The same goes for relationships. When someone has to work to earn your time, your attention, your love, they value it. But when they know they can have it anytime without effort, it starts to lose its meaning. The problem is, most people don't realize when they've crossed the line from being interested to being attached. It starts small. You text them good morning every day. You always say yes when they ask you to hang out. You rearrange your schedule to accommodate theirs. At first, it feels good. You feel like you're building something. But then, little by little, you start noticing changes. They take longer to reply. They seem less engaged. They stop making as much of an effort. And suddenly, you're left wondering, what happened? What did I do wrong? The truth is, it's not about what you did. It's about the dynamic you created. You made it too easy. You removed the challenge. And as a result, you changed the way they saw you. Because here's something people won't always tell you. Attraction isn't just about how much someone likes you. It's about how much they respect your value. When you show someone that you're willing to drop everything for them, before they've done the same for you, you tell them that your time isn't valuable, that your life revolves around them. And nothing kills attraction faster than the realization that someone has placed their happiness in your hands before you've earned that responsibility. So what's the alternative? The answer isn't to play games or to manipulate. It's to shift your focus back to yourself, to be present in your own life instead of constantly orbiting around someone else's. It means keeping your schedule, even if they suddenly want to see you. It means not always replying instantly, not because you're trying to be cold, but because you genuinely have a life that keeps you busy. It means allowing space for them to wonder about you, to miss you, to realize that your attention isn't a guarantee. It's something to be earned. The hardest part about detaching is that it feels counterintuitive. Your emotions tell you to do more, to prove yourself, to hold on tighter. The reality is, the more you hold on, the more they feel the need to pull away. People don't want to be someone's entire world. They want to be a part of something meaningful. And the only way they can see you as that kind of person is if you already have a full, vibrant life of your own. So next time you feel the urge to overinvest, to overgive, to overexplain, pause. Ask yourself, is this coming from a place of confidence or a place of fear? Because real confidence doesn't beg, it doesn't chase, it doesn't try to force something to happen, it simply is. And that, more than anything, is what draws people in. Have you ever noticed that the moment you stop chasing someone, they suddenly start paying more attention to you? It's as if the second you pull away, they wake up and realize your value. It's not magic. It's not some manipulative trick. It's human nature. We are wired to want what feels just out of reach. The moment something seems scarce, its perceived value skyrockets. Think about it. When was the last time you truly appreciated something that was always there, always available, always within reach? The reality is, the things we take for granted tend to lose their appeal. It's not that we don't care, it's just that we assume they'll always be there. But the second something starts slipping away, it triggers a response in us, a fear of loss, and suddenly We wake up to how much we want it. This is why letting go, detaching from the outcome, makes you more attractive. When you stop making someone your sole focus, they start to feel the space you create. And in that space, desire has room to grow. Because when you're constantly available, when you're always showing up, always texting first, always seeking their approval, it doesn't create excitement. It doesn't create curiosity. It doesn't make them wonder about you. Instead, it makes them comfortable. And comfort, ironically, can be the enemy of attraction in the early stages of a relationship. Attraction is built on a mix of desire and uncertainty. If someone feels like they already have you completely, without effort, their mind shifts from wanting to win you over to simply assuming you're there. And once they assume you're there, they stop investing. They stop trying. They stop appreciating. It's not because they're bad people. It's not because they don't care. It's simply because the challenge has disappeared. Letting go doesn't mean playing games. It doesn't mean pretending not to care. It means genuinely shifting your focus back to yourself and the things that light you up. The paradox is that the less you make them the center of your world, the more they start wanting to be part of it. When you create a life that is exciting, fulfilling, and rich with experiences outside of them, they begin to see you as someone valuable, someone they don't want to lose. Think about the last time you met someone who had an undeniable energy about them, someone who wasn't desperate for your attention, but was simply enjoying their life. That kind of presence is magnetic. We're drawn to people who don't need us, but choose to have us in their world. It's incredibly attractive when someone knows their worth and isn't afraid to walk away from situations that don't serve them. That confidence, that self-assuredness, makes people sit up and take notice. Now, there's a crucial distinction to make here. This isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about actually living in a way where your happiness isn't dependent on someone else's actions. When you give someone the power to dictate your mood, your confidence, your sense of self-worth, you lose control. And the moment they sense that, the dynamic shifts. But when you stand firm in the belief that you bring value, that you are the prize, that your life is meaningful with or without them, something changes. They start to respect you more. They start to crave your attention. Because now, your attention isn't guaranteed, it's something they have to earn. Think about exclusive events. When you hear about a party that anyone can get into, it's nice, but it's not exactly exciting. Now, imagine there's a party where only a select few are invited. Suddenly, that party becomes the most intriguing thing in the world. Why? Because it's exclusive, because not everyone gets access, because it's special. The same principle applies in attraction. If you give unlimited access to someone who hasn't earned it, they won't value it the same way. But if your time, your energy, your presence is something that is given intentionally, not just freely, it becomes something people want to be a part of. This is where people get it wrong. They think the way to win someone over is to be always available, to prove how much they care, to show up no matter what. But the real key is to balance your kindness with a sense of self-respect, to show that while you're open to love, you're not desperate for it. When you hold that energy, people lean in. They start noticing the shift. They start realizing that your attention is something they have to work for, and that makes it more valuable. The mistake people make is thinking that letting go means losing. But the truth is, when you let go of control, you gain power. You start moving with confidence instead of fear. You stop trying to force someone to see your value, and instead, you become someone who naturally radiates value. And that shift, that transformation, is what makes people chase. Not because you manipulated them, not because you played games, but because you became someone worth chasing. And when you reach that place, something magical happens. You stop worrying about whether they want you, and instead, you start asking yourself, do I even want them? When we talk about detachment, most people think of it in negative terms. It sounds like you're supposed to not care or shut yourself off from others emotionally. But that's not what detachment is about. Detachment, in this sense, is about freeing yourself from the need to control outcomes and putting yourself in the position where you no longer feel desperate for someone's attention or validation. It's the exact opposite of holding on too tightly. It's about showing the strength to let go. Now think about it. When was the last time you saw someone who was desperate for validation, constantly seeking approval from others, or chasing someone who wasn't giving them the attention they craved? How attractive did they seem to you in that moment? Chances are they didn't feel confident or powerful. They felt dependent. And the problem with dependence is that it always stems from a lack of internal validation. When you don't feel good about yourself unless someone else gives you that external affirmation, it's easy to fall into a pattern of needing approval to feel okay. But here's the twist. The more you let go, the more control you gain over the situation. And that's where true attraction comes in. Letting go means releasing the need for someone to validate your worth or make you feel whole. And when you do that, you naturally regain power. Not because you're trying to manipulate someone or play games, but because you're showing that you don't need anything from them to feel complete. Think about the most attractive people you know. Are they the ones who are constantly chasing or looking for reassurance? Or are they the ones who carry themselves with self-assurance, who are focused on their own lives, and who draw others in because they have a sense of self-worth that doesn't hinge on anyone else's opinion of them? The truth is, those who have the most control over their own lives are often the ones who attract the most attention. You see, detachment isn't about being cold or indifferent. It's about showing that you can walk away and be perfectly fine. It's the ability to not tie your happiness to someone else's behavior. And it's this very freedom that makes you magnetic. When you're not attached to the outcome, you remove the pressure. The less pressure you put on someone, the more likely they are to feel free to get closer to you. This is exactly why the law of detachment works in relationships. The more you're focused on your own life and happiness, the more attractive you become to someone who's genuinely interested in you. You stop coming across as needy, and instead you come across as confident, independent, and intriguing. And let's face it, there's nothing more magnetic than someone who is unapologetically living their life, not waiting around for others to validate their existence. And here's the kicker: letting go also creates space for someone else to come in and choose you. If you're always the one doing the chasing, it creates an imbalance. But when you stop chasing and start living your own life, you put the ball in their court. Suddenly the person you were hoping would notice you now has the freedom to make a decision on their own terms. And the beauty of it is that decision will be rooted in genuine interest, not because you pushed or forced them into it. They'll want to be with you because they genuinely choose you, not because they were pressured into it. Letting go is also about finding your own value, separate from anyone else's opinion. When you no longer seek validation from others, you begin to realize that your worth isn't tied to the way someone treats you or the level of attention they give you. Your worth is inherent. And when you understand that, you stop chasing validation. And this is where you begin to truly radiate self-assurance. Now, don't get me wrong. This doesn't mean you become distant, detached, or avoid getting close to people. It simply means you don't need them to feel good about yourself. When you can honestly say that you'd be just as happy on your own, that's when your relationships begin to feel more balanced. You stop making someone else's behavior the center of your universe, and instead you focus on building a life that makes you fulfilled, with or without their involvement. When you become genuinely comfortable with the idea that you can walk away at any time and still be perfectly fine, you bring a new level of confidence into the relationship. It's this freedom that makes people feel safe around you. No one wants to feel like they're walking on eggshells or that they're the reason someone else's happiness hinges on the relationship. But when you show that you have your own life, your own passions, your own purpose, it takes the pressure off. And this makes the dynamic between you and the other person feel effortless. But let's be real, letting go isn't always easy. We're wired to seek connection. And when we meet someone who seems to spark something in us, the natural instinct is to want to hold on. We start to fear that if we let go, we might lose them for good. But here's the truth. The more you chase, the more you push them away. The more you cling, the more you show them you don't trust in your own value. And the more you try to control the outcome, the more you lose the magic of true connection. Instead, when you practice detachment, you trust that the right people will show up in your life and that the right relationships will unfold when they're meant to. It's about understanding that you don't have to force things to work out. You simply have to allow things to unfold naturally, knowing that whatever happens, you'll be okay. The right person will want you because of who you are, not because of how much you're trying to make them want you. And in this space of trust, detachment becomes less of a tactic and more of a reflection of your internal state. It's not something you do to make someone like you more, it's simply how you live your life, because you've reached a place where you know that your happiness and fulfillment come from within. When you reach that point, relationships shift. They stop being about needing the other person to fulfill you, and instead, they become about sharing life, love, and joy with someone who is also complete in their own right. So, to wrap this up, the more you let go, the more you regain control. The more you detach, the more you attract. Letting go of the need to control outcomes and the need for constant validation frees you to live your life confidently, fully, and unapologetically. And in doing so, you become the most attractive version of yourself, a version who is at peace with who they are, not defined by anyone else's approval. It's this version of you that will magnetically draw others in because they'll see your strength, your independence, and the power of someone who knows they don't need anything or anyone to be complete. When it comes to relationships, we often focus so much on trying to understand the other person, to figure out what they want, how they feel, and how we can make them feel more comfortable. But here's the key to this whole thing. You can't build a lasting magnetic connection by constantly focusing on the other person. In fact, when you put too much energy into chasing them, you miss the most important thing, the value you bring to the table. Think about it for a moment. How attractive is it to be around someone who has their own life, their own passions, their own goals? Someone who is confident enough to show that they are already complete without needing someone else to validate their worth. That's the essence of true attraction. Being someone who's content and fulfilled on their own. When you focus on yourself and your own development, your value becomes undeniable. You naturally draw people toward you because they sense that you're already whole, that you have your own path, your own purpose. Now, I know it's easy to say, I know my worth, but where's the connection? Where's the relationship? And while I get it, of course you want connection and intimacy, but let's think about it. If you're constantly thinking about how to get someone to notice you, or constantly wondering why they're not pursuing you as much as you want them to, you're not living authentically. You're living in a state of dependence, and that's the exact opposite of what makes you magnetic. People don't want to be needed, they want to be wanted. That's a crucial distinction. When you're constantly seeking someone's attention, you're broadcasting that you need their approval. The more you need it, the more it feels like a chore to the other person. And guess what? People don't want to feel like they're being chased. They want to feel like they're pursuing someone with their own life, their own world, someone who is living fully, whether or not they're in it. So, what does this all mean? It means that you should be prioritizing your own growth, your own development. It means investing in things that make you feel alive, things that excite you, things that bring you joy. And here's the magic that happens when you do this. You stop waiting for someone else to complete you. You stop relying on someone else's attention or approval to feel good about yourself. Instead, you start attracting people who are drawn to the person you already are. The person who's living fully without waiting for permission or validation from anyone. Let me tell you, when you're focused on yourself, not in a selfish or self-centered way, but in a way that shows you value your time, your energy, and your purpose, that's when your energy shifts. You become less desperate, less needy. And that's when things start to change. You don't have to chase or overthink. You just have to be someone who is content with where they are, someone who knows that their life is rich, whether or not someone else is in it. And let's be real. Someone who's not desperate for attention is so much more interesting than someone who is constantly seeking it. This is where the paradox of attraction lies. The more you detach from the outcome, the more you invite the right kind of attention into your life. By focusing on yourself and letting go of the need to control what someone else thinks or how they feel, you actually open the door for them to come toward you naturally. But it can't be forced. It has to be real, and it has to come from a place of inner security. This is how you stop worrying about whether someone's going to text you back, whether they're going to want to see you again, or whether they're going to be as into you as you are into them. When you're secure in who you are, none of that matters. You're not waiting for someone else's approval to feel good about yourself. You've already decided that you're worth the time, the effort, the love. And guess what? When you exude that kind of confidence, it's not only attractive, it's magnetic. People can't resist it. And that's because it's authentic, it's real. It's not about pretending to be someone you're not or putting on a facade to get someone to like you. It's about showing up as the best version of yourself, someone who's already complete and who is simply sharing their life with others, not waiting for them to complete it. Here's another thing to consider. When you're busy focusing on yourself and building a life you love, you naturally start to set boundaries. And boundaries are incredibly attractive. People love being around those who respect themselves enough to say, I'm not going to chase after you. I'm not going to beg for your attention. I'm not going to settle for something that doesn't match my worth. When you set those standards, you set the tone for how you expect to be treated. And it's empowering. It's not about being rude or putting up walls. It's about maintaining your integrity and your peace. As you begin to focus on your own journey, it becomes clear that you're not relying on anyone else to create your happiness. You're happy already, and that's what draws people to you. You're not holding on to someone out of desperation or fear of being alone. You're allowing space for the right person to step into your life. You're not holding on to people who don't treat you well or who are only half invested in the relationship. Instead, you're cultivating an environment where the right people are drawn to you naturally. But let's also be clear about something. Detachment doesn't mean being cold or emotionally unavailable. It means not being overly attached to the outcome. It means you're willing to let things unfold as they should, without forcing or manipulating the situation. You don't need to be on all the time or constantly be performing for someone else's attention. You just need to be yourself. Let go of the pressure and trust that the right people will be drawn to you. When you live from a place of emotional independence and self-worth, it's amazing how much more effortless everything becomes. You see, attachment often stems from insecurity. It's when we're unsure of our own value that we cling to others, hoping they'll validate us. But when you know your worth, when you've done the inner work to build confidence and create a life that you're proud of, you stop needing that validation from others. And that's what makes you irresistible. The moment you let go of needing someone else to define your worth is the moment you become the most attractive version of yourself. So remember this, focus on you, invest in your own growth, and watch how effortlessly people are drawn to the person who is living their life fully and without apology. The more you let go, the more you'll discover that the right people are attracted to the person you've always been, complete, confident, and magnetic. And with that, all I'll leave you with is this. When you stop trying so hard, that's when everything will start falling into place. The moment you show someone that you're okay with or without them, everything changes. We often think that the key to building a relationship is to invest as much of ourselves into it as possible, to be available, to show up in every possible way. But the truth is, one of the most powerful signals you can send is that you're not afraid to walk away. Imagine for a moment, you've been investing a lot of emotional energy into someone. You've put yourself out there. You've shown them who you are. Maybe you've even fallen for them. But despite all of that, things don't seem to be moving forward as quickly as you'd like. Or perhaps they're showing interest, but there's a sense of hesitation, a bit of emotional distance. What happens? The instinct, right? You start to chase. You feel this urgency, this panic almost, and you start texting more, calling more, showing up more, trying to get their attention, trying to figure out what's going on. We've all been there. But here's the thing. In that chase, you lose your power. When you start to show that you're emotionally dependent on someone else's affection to feel secure, you put yourself at their mercy. And no matter how much they like you or how much they care for you, the moment they realize that they have this control, something shifts. Subconsciously, they begin to feel less motivated to pursue. Why? Because you've taken the mystery away. The game is over. They know you're not going anywhere. And when you don't leave space for them to wonder about you, you don't allow that sense of attraction to grow. It's like showing your cards too early. The suspense is gone. But when you're willing to walk away, when you show that you're okay without them, that's when things get interesting. You see, this isn't about playing games. It's about showing your own sense of self-worth. It's about sending the message that your happiness, your life, doesn't depend on their validation. That, in itself, is an incredibly attractive quality. Because the truth is, people don't want to feel needed. They want to feel wanted. And when you act from a place of neediness, you push people away. They might feel sorry for you. They might even feel some obligation to stay for a while. But deep down, they don't feel the attraction. Why? Because when you're constantly in a state of needing reassurance, it's draining, it's exhausting, it's heavy. And who wants to carry that weight? No one, not even the person who cares for you the most. Now, walking away doesn't mean playing hard to get. It doesn't mean being distant for the sake of being distant. It's not about shutting them out emotionally. It's about choosing to live your life and not waiting around for someone to complete it. You don't make them your entire world. You allow them to be a part of it. And the beauty of this approach is that you remain in control, not because you're pretending to be uninterested, but because you are genuinely interested in yourself. You are the focus of your life. You have your own goals, your own dreams, your own passions, and your own sense of worth that isn't dependent on whether or not they text back or whether or not they make the next move. When you stop clinging to the outcome, something remarkable happens. The pressure that can often stifle a budding relationship dissipates. And when that pressure is gone, the space to really get to know one another opens up. People don't want to feel as though they're a responsibility. They want to feel that they are chosen freely. When you give them the option, when you make them realize that you are not waiting around for them to decide whether they want you or not, you begin to shift the dynamic. And what's even more powerful, you start to attract people who are genuinely interested in you for who you are, not for the version of you that's constantly seeking their approval. Walking away in this sense is not about creating a void. It's about creating a balanced dynamic where both parties have something to bring to the table. You're not here to complete each other. You're here to enhance each other's lives. This is heaven. And when both individuals are independently happy, individually secure, and living fulfilling lives, that's when the real connection can occur. It's like two people standing side by side, each bringing something unique and valuable to the relationship, instead of one person leaning so heavily on the other that it creates an imbalance. The more secure and grounded you become in your own life, the more appealing you are to others. The more they see that you're willing to walk away if things aren't right, the more they realize that they need to step up if they want to keep you in their lives. And it's in this stepping up that true desire is born. When someone feels that they have to rise to meet you, that's when they get invested. That's when the attraction shifts from something passive to something active. They start to chase. They start to think, wait a minute, I could lose this person, and I don't want to. The fear of loss becomes the greatest motivator, but this fear is rooted in respect. Because when you show that you respect yourself enough to walk away, they begin to respect you as well. Now, this doesn't mean you need to create drama or constantly threaten to leave in order to get someone's attention. That's not the goal here. The real power lies in knowing that you are whole even without them. It's about showing up as your best self and being willing to leave if they're not meeting you halfway. When you do this, You stop chasing, you stop pushing, you stop begging, you just live. And that's when people want to be a part of your life. Because at the end of the day, the strongest relationships are the ones where both people choose each other freely, not out of obligation, but out of genuine desire. And that desire, it's always sparked by the willingness to walk away. When someone knows you're not afraid to do so, they start to realize just how valuable you truly are. And that's when everything changes. When we think about attraction, we often believe that the more available we are, the more someone will want us. The truth, though, is a bit counterintuitive. The secret to magnetic attraction isn't about being constantly accessible or pouring all your energy into someone else. It's actually about creating a sense of mystery. Let's unpack that. Think about the early stages of a relationship, or even the beginning of a potential one. There's a certain magic in the unknown. The first time you meet someone, there's this excitement because everything feels fresh and unexplored. You're not sure what the other person is thinking, what they're doing, or where things will go. That mystery, the space in between where you don't know everything about someone, is actually a powerful element of attraction. When you suddenly become more predictable, the spark of curiosity fades. People are drawn to the unknown, and that's where you start to really tap into your power. When you're always available, whether that's through texts, calls, or always saying yes to plans, you're removing that element of surprise. You've made yourself predictable. And while predictability can be comforting in some aspects of life, it doesn't ignite desire. Desire thrives on curiosity. And in relationships, the less someone knows about you, the more they feel compelled to learn about you. It's human nature. We're all wired to want what that we don't have, to chase what feels scarce. So when you stop revealing everything about yourself, when you pull back just a little and create some space, you give them room to wonder. You give them a reason to think about you when you're not around. Now, this doesn't mean playing games or being deceptive. That's not the point here. The goal is to make sure you're living your life fully engaged in your own world, your own passions, and your own purpose. When you're busy living in the moment, enjoying your life, and pursuing your own ambitions, you're not only not giving away all your time and attention, you're also creating an air of intrigue around yourself. And this intrigue is powerful. People want to know more. They want to be part of your world because they can see you're not relying on them to complete you. If you think about it, the best relationships, those that have long-lasting chemistry, are often built on this foundation. Think back to a time when you felt truly attracted to someone. Wasn't there a sense of excitement about the unknown? When you didn't know everything about them, when there was room for you to discover more? That feeling, that spark, is what happens when we allow a little space in the connection. But it's important to recognize that this isn't just about playing hard to get. It's about being comfortable with your own life and your own energy. It's about letting go of the pressure to constantly prove yourself to someone else. This is where the power really lies. You see, when you're detached from the outcome, when you let go of the need for validation from someone else, you actually attract them in a way that you can't when you're trying too hard. When someone can see that you're okay without them, that you have a life that doesn't revolve around them, it immediately shifts the dynamic. They don't feel pressured. They feel a sense of freedom to be themselves. And this natural dynamic creates a much more authentic connection. People who are secure in themselves are naturally more appealing because they exude a sense of calm and confidence. They don't need to chase. They don't need to beg for attention. They attract effortlessly. In contrast, when you're always at someone's beck and call, it can create a sense of desperation. It might even make them feel smothered, which pushes them away. Think about it. If someone knows they can always count on you to be there at the drop of a hat, where's the challenge? Where's the mystery? Relationships thrive on challenge, on growth, on the push and pull of different energies. If one person is constantly available, there's no space for that growth. There's no pull. There's no challenge to keep things exciting. What's more, the moment you stop desperately seeking someone's attention or approval is the moment they start to see your value. When you're not chasing them, It's like you've turned the tables. Now they start to chase you. Why? Because you've created something rare. You've created space for them to desire you, to wonder about you, and to think about what it would be like to have you in their lives. You've created a sense of mystery that they want to explore. This isn't about playing games. It's about living your life authentically. When you're genuinely invested in your own passions, your own growth, and your own happiness, you're not seeking approval or validation from anyone else. You're simply living, and that energy speaks volumes. People are drawn to that energy. It's magnetic. Imagine how much more attractive you become when you show up as someone who is whole, someone who is content in their own life, someone who has their own goals, dreams, and ambitions. You don't need someone else to complete you. And when that message is clear, it speaks louder than any words or actions ever could. So here's the takeaway. The more you let go of the need to be available at all times, the more you stop chasing, and the more you embrace your own life, the more people will be drawn to you. This is the law of detachment in action. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about showing that you have your own life, your own passions, and your own sense of purpose that isn't dependent on anyone else. When you create this balance, when you learn how to pull back just a little, you open the door for a deeper connection, a stronger attraction, and a healthier dynamic. And ultimately, you'll realize that the key to drawing someone in is not in trying harder, it's in simply being yourself, living your life fully, and letting them come to you.